In 2025, North Korea has once again disrupted global headlines with its latest missile test. This time, it wasn't just the range, the altitude, or the trajectory that caught the world's attention. It was the message, the intent, and the capability behind the launch. Welcome to Motor Authority, where we usually dive deep into the engineering marvels of motorsport and high-performance machines, but today, we pivot into an equally technical yet far more globally consequential military missile technology. The missile in question is North Korea's newest intercontinental ballistic missile, believed to be a next-generation upgrade of the Hwasong-17, which was already among the largest road-mobile ICBMs ever developed. Sources indicate the new missile, possibly codenamed Hwasong-18B or Hwasong-6, is solid-fueled, a major leap from the liquid-fueled systems that have long characterized North Korea's missile program. The shift to solid fuel isn't just a technological upgrade, it's a strategic revolution. Solid fuel missiles are easier to transport, faster to launch, and significantly harder to detect before ignition. Let's unpack what we know so far. The test was conducted at a new site near Pangwon, in North Pyongan Province. Satellite imagery released by independent analysts shows increased activity around known launch pads, with thermal signatures consistent with solid fuel rocket propulsion. Unlike previous tests, this missile didn't splash down in the Sea of Japan or soar into the upper atmosphere for a lofted trajectory display. This one followed a standard ballistic arc, covering a massive distance over 13,000 kilometers, theoretically putting the entire continental United States within reach. What does that mean from an engineering standpoint? A missile of that size, carrying a potential payload of multiple re-entry vehicles, yes. We're talking about MIRVs, multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, could change the strategic calculus entirely. Instead of sending one warhead to one target, MIRV technology allows a single missile to deliver several warheads, each guided to a separate target. That's a major force multiplier and an escalation of strategic threat. But this missile test wasn't just about hardware, it was about messaging. Coming just weeks after Joint U.S.A. South Korea military exercises, this launch seems deliberately timed to coincide with diplomatic tensions in the region. North Korea is signaling not just that it has the tools, but that it's willing to use them to demand attention and negotiation leverage. Analysts have pointed out the importance of the transporter erector launcher or tailor used in this test. Unlike previous TELs that were modified commercial vehicles, this one appeared purpose-built, with an extended chassis, improved suspension system, and possibly even indigenous manufacturing. That detail is significant. It suggests North Korea is getting better at not just designing missiles, but also at building the infrastructure required to deploy them rapidly and effectively. In military terms, that's survivability. If your missile can move, hide, and launch quickly, it's far more difficult to neutralize. There's also the matter of launch-to-flight time. According to South Korean and Japanese defense officials, the time between the missile's arrival on site and its actual launch was under 15 minutes. That's an operational milestone. 15 minutes leaves very little time for any preemptive action, even from systems designed for early warning and rapid interception. This puts additional pressure on global missile defense architectures, particularly those of the United States, Japan, and South Korea. And speaking of missile defense, how would current systems fare against this new missile? Not well, if the warhead includes decoys or maneuverable re-entry vehicles. THAAD, Aegis, and Patriot systems are effective to a point, but no system is foolproof, especially when facing saturation or advanced evasion techniques. Now, let's consider the political response. Washington has condemned the launch, calling it a clear violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. South Korea has increased aerial surveillance, and Japan has mobilized its missile tracking systems. China, notably, has remained largely silent, though it's almost certainly watching with a mix of concern and calculation. So, what drives the regime like North Korea to push forward with this level of missile development? It's not just about deterrence. It's about legitimacy, leverage, and regime survival. For Pyongyang, a credible ICBM capability is a bargaining chip or a way to force the world, especially the US, to the negotiating table on its terms. It's about ensuring that no military strike can occur without devastating consequences. In the eyes of the regime, this missile isn't just a weapon, it's insurance. Of course, there's also the internal dimension. Kim Jong Un's government has framed these missile advances as a symbol of national pride and scientific achievement. In a country where information is tightly controlled and propaganda is pervasive, showcasing such technological feats serves both to unify the populace and to legitimize the regime's rule. And let's not forget the broader implications. Missile proliferation is a contagious phenomenon. As North Korea advances its technology, other nations are either allies or adversaries, so are likely to respond in kind. South Korea is already discussing the development of its own long-range strike capabilities. Japan has loosened some of its post-war military restrictions. The arms race in East Asia is no longer theoretical, it's active, escalating, and driven by very real fears. From an engineering perspective, what North Korea has achieved is no small feat. Developing a solid-fuel ICBM with global reach, on a mobile platform, in defiance of sanctions and international isolation, is an immense technical challenge. It speaks to a focused investment in military science and an ability to innovate under pressure. However, from a humanitarian or diplomatic angle, it's a reminder of how fragile global security can be when technology outpaces diplomacy. What comes next? More tests are almost certain. Perhaps a test involving re-entry vehicles, or even a dummy MRF deployment. There's also speculation about a possible submarine-launched variant, which would dramatically expand North Korea's second strike capability. Submarine launches mean stealth. They mean mobility. They mean unpredictability. And they're much harder to monitor and track. For now, the world watches. Leaders calculate. Generals revise their contingency plans. And engineers on all sides return to the drawing board, preparing for a future where missile technology defines not just national defense, but global diplomacy. Thanks for watching Motor Authority. We'll return to our regularly scheduled programming soon, but in a world where motors power everything from sports cars to strategic weapons, it's essential to understand the full spectrum of mechanical power. Stay informed. Stay alert. And we'll see you in the next video.